What we are going to discuss today is an answer to a poll that we posed to our clients. And this has to do with digital marketing. And we assumed that issues and questions that our clients have are issues and questions that every college marketer has. So we wanted to share that information with you. This webinar is part of Paschal, Stapleton, and Lord's webinar series about high-profile topics in education marketing, in enrollment marketing. And on our panel today are a group of my very talented and brilliant colleagues. Throughout the program today, which will be about 30 minutes, you will hear from Jim Paschal, President, Angela Wenner, Senior Account Manager, Beatriz Cuevas, Senior Analytics Manager, and Bobby Kerwin, Media Strategist. Advance the slide, please. Now, I noticed in the audience today, there are plenty of folks that have been our webinar fans over the years and clients as well. Thanks again for coming. And there are some new folks here today that may not know us. Paschal, Stapleton, and Lord is an integrated, comprehensive higher education marketing firm. We offer a variety of services that are all designed to improve enrollment outcomes and elevate brands. And we really believe in integration. It is extremely common. Almost all of our clients have at least or leverage at least two of our services because everything's connected. And once we get on a campus, we want to make sure that all of the links in the chain from your university to your prospective students and families are all in sync. So on the list here are the services that we provide. Next slide, please. And I also want to mention some housekeeping details. We are recording the program today, as you are probably used to. So I will be sending a link of the recording to everybody in the audience. And we will be taking questions and answers. If you could please just enter your questions in the chat box, in the Q&A section of this webinar. We'll address them at the end of the presentation. And it's very common for questions to pop up after the webinar. Please feel free to reach out to me and I'll make sure you have my email address as well. Now, PSNL, as I mentioned, has a long list or a variety of services related to enrollment marketing, and they're all connected. And what we're focusing on today is digital marketing. And to tell you a little bit more about that, I'm going to pass the microphone over to my colleague, Angela Wenner, Senior Account Manager. Angela, over to you now.
Thank you, Janet. That's right. As Janet mentioned, we are actively working with many institutions of higher learning right now. I personally have about 15 active higher ed digital campaigns running as we speak, with the help, of course, of all my colleagues. The challenges and our understanding of those challenges that you're facing comes from many years of working side by side with admissions professionals just like you and marketing folks. And we've helped you through economic recessions, times of decreasing enrollments, changes in leadership, and yes, even global pandemics. But that's just one facet of what we do. As part of JPL, our creative and digital teams, if you could change the slide over, are working every day with consumer companies like these to deliver digital solutions to attract and convert the right audiences to their brands. So the digital strategies and learnings that our team brings to these consumer brands carry into what we do within our higher ed practice. They're truly on the leading edge. And the thought leadership that you'll be hearing this afternoon comes from a diverse, fully integrated digital team that has walked the walk with clients of every size and across many industries. And along with that, they're able to leverage our strong partnerships with the world's leading media companies. So we think that's what makes today's webinar especially valuable. Jim, could you give us some lay of the land with higher ed marketing right now?
Absolutely, Angela, thank you. Next slide, please. You know, before we get into answering some of our clients' most burning questions, I thought I'd set the stage, you know, for why this discussion right now about digital media is so important. And I'm going to go back to a New Year's resolution I made, and it was not to use the word unprecedented for an entire 12 months. But I'm actually going to break that resolution today, because what higher education has gone through in the past year and a half is truly unprecedented. I don't think there's a better word for it. The impact of the pandemic was was immediate and very, very far reaching. And I'm sure it's touched everyone's campus that is on this call, and it certainly impacted every one of our clients. Now, thankfully, we're beginning to see the light at the end of the tunnel when it comes to our nation's public health, but the impact on higher education, and in particular, higher education enrollment marketing, continues to be very pervasive, and it will be for the foreseeable future. So on this slide, I kind of pulled up my top 3 ways that the pandemic continues to affect what we're doing on a daily basis, and why our enrollment marketing efforts, including digital media, is so important right now. You know, that the top one is really the most obvious impact in terms of our enrollment marketing. Before the pandemic, a lot of schools we worked with were going to test optional, but because of the pandemic, it certainly accelerated that trend. And many of the schools that we work with planned only to do it for 1 year, but they found very quickly that once you go that route, it's very difficult to reverse course. So we see more and more schools continuing to be test optional. So what does that mean from an enrollment marketing standpoint? Well, it means fewer test takers, ACT, College Board, which in turn means fewer names for us to target. So the impact on enrollment marketing is obvious. They're looking to our marketing departments to generate those leads, to generate those inquiries. The second one here is something that if you have a freshman in the class of 2020, you heard this. There are a lot of disgruntled freshmen out there. Because of that, there's a lot of movement this season in terms of transfer. So while retention is a challenge, and across the board, we've seen freshman to sophomore retention being down, obviously there's an opportunity when there's a challenge. So opportunities for transfers. We are doing a lot of transfer campaigns right now through digital media. So it's another impact of the pandemic. And then lastly, we have a lot of schools, and I would say the majority of our schools right now are up in applications. And while normally that's certainly reason for celebration, I think there's a false sense of security this year, from test optional to families really being unsure of what they want to do. They're hedging their bets with more applications. We are seeing lots of applications. The impact is going to be, how are we going to yield those applications? So we are working with schools right now on yield strategies, which include digital media, to convert those applications into enrolled students. So with that as our backdrop, what we'd like to do is get to those top 3 questions that we've heard over and over again. And you'll see that these 3 items will be touched on within those questions. So with that, I'd like to turn it back to Angela. Take it away.
Thanks, Jim. So why don't we jump right into one of those trending topics in digital marketing right now? The new operating system coming in hot from Apple has a lot of marketers reevaluating their strategies. Bobby, could you give us some insight into how colleges can prepare for this?
So as Angela mentioned, everyone in digital advertising really has their ear to the ground waiting for Apple to push through this tracking transparency prompt. And can we go to the next slide, please? So this is a huge part of their update to the new iOS 14, which a lot of us already have on our Apple devices. And this update, it really has a lot of implications to Facebook advertising that agencies and advertisers are working tirelessly to prepare for over the past couple of months. So the tracking transparency prompt is basically going to ask users if they want their user behavior or data tracked from app to app to give them a better user experience, which will serve them ads best suited for them, and so on. So Facebook is preparing preparing for a lot of people to opt out of this feature, which isn't surprising given the conversations surrounding privacy online today. So, and this prompt is going to happen anytime in May. A lot of advertisers were thinking it was going to happen in April. So we're really just listening to waiting for Apple to release this prompt and doing everything we can to prepare. So the big question is, how is this going to affect my ads and my ad campaigns on Facebook and Instagram? So First and foremost, it's going to limit advertisers to tracking just one conversion event. So for many colleges and universities, there are multiple conversion events that we're tracking. We have RFI submits, requests for information, visits scheduled, applications submitted, etc. So a lot of different things that contribute to the goals we're trying to reach online and specifically through Facebook advertising. So this means that for Facebook campaigns, we will have to prioritize just one of these conversion events. So it will be really important to have those conversations and decide what conversion events are most important to be tracked in Facebook. Is it RFI submits? Is it visit scheduled? Is it just application submitted? And then secondly, this update is going to limit targeting because data outside of Facebook's first-party data will be limited. And Facebook does have a lot of really great first-party data, including age, gender, location, education, pages liked and engaged with, what a user's job is. So it's going to be really important to lean in on these audiences, and we should also lean in on our own first-party data. So any CRM that we have is going to be crucial. Email lists of prospective students, website retargeting audiences, and also lookalike modeling off of these audiences. So finding users who look and behave similarly to our CRM on Facebook. And also remarketing users who view our video ads, both paid and organically, will be a great way to reach users through paid ads. And then also just reaching people who like and engage in our organic Facebook page is another audience to lean in on. And I'm expecting to see a much stronger focus on producing organic content for this reason. So to really leverage that engaged audience to use for paid ads. And then finally, what are we going to do to prepare for this shift? So the PSNL team has been working for the past couple months to prepare for this shift alongside Facebook, for our clients. And the first thing to do is to get your domain verified in your Facebook Ads Manager, whether that's verified by you or your agency of record. And this is just a snippet of Facebook code that goes into the global header of your domain's homepage. And it basically just tells Facebook that we are allowed to run ads that link to your domain. And as I mentioned before, it's going to be really important to choose wisely on that one conversion event that you want to be tracked, and just be sure to really lean in on what's most important for your campaign success. And then, of course, prioritizing that first-party targeting that I just mentioned a minute ago. So CRM, website retargeting, remarketing video viewers, et cetera. And then finally, just level setting with your agency and clients so that everyone's on the same page with what has been done already and how to move forward.
Thanks, Bobby. Excellent advice. That takes us to our next question. Now that data has become so critical to decision-making, how do we sort through it all? Beatrice, what's the best way for a marketing team to show the results of their valuable investments in digital?
Thank you, Angela. Yes, if we could go to the next slide, please. All right. So just to speak a little bit to what Bobby just spoke about in regards to measurement limitations with Facebook coming up. It's so important to work with our clients on a measurement brief or a measurement plan that really, helps us speak to them about what they value in measurement, which then helps us not only set up analytics deliverables according to the key performance indicators that they find most valuable, but what this also does is it helps us with our media planning. And it helps analytics team members work very closely with paid media launch specialists to launch the correct media and measure it appropriately. So in terms of analytics deliverables, these are super important because our clients always want to know how the media is performing and how it's adding value for their business. So some of the key, value drivers for performance measurement are supporting our internal team in paid media optimization based on priority performance indicators or KPIs. So what this means is that, for example, we may have monthly reporting for a particular client that shows us how the media is performing, and then we can use that to create trending to supplement any weekly optimizations that may be occurring within the paid media platforms by someone like Bobby or someone on his team. The analytics deliverables also help us formally update our clients on paid media delivery and performance, and they aid discussions on what custom data views or analyses may further add value. So for example, a lot of our clients right now are very interested in attribution and incremental revenue measurements. So those are things that we all consider when we look at different measurement vendors and partners that may help us provide the most value with these analytics deliverables for our clients and for our internal teams who are optimizing the media on a daily basis. And finally, we want to deliver insights to inform strategy for future similar campaigns. So for example, many of our clients have been with us for a very long time. And when we have performance reporting that speaks to strategy, and that speaks to kind of telling a story with the data and the performance, it really helps us plan for the future intelligently to make the most out of every dollar. Next slide, please. Analytics tools and platforms. So this gives us kind of a visual representation of some of the data sources on the left here that we would pull from for data aggregation to get a deeper view of performance. So some of these are Facebook Business Manager, Basis by Centro, which is a programmatic platform, Moat, which helps us measure viewability and ad fraud, Google Analytics, which helps us measure site traffic, Google Ads, which helps us measure search performance, Twitter and LinkedIn, which help us measure paid social performance on those platforms specifically. And here on the right, we have visualization and insight. So basically, once we pull data from all of the data sources on the left, we may have to aggregate it, based on the fact that the media is launching on so many of these platforms, sometimes for one campaign or for one particular program, right? So that's where the aggregation comes into play to get our aggregate performance metrics, such as click-through rate, cost per click, et cetera. So then once we have all the data pulled and aggregated, we have various ways that we can visualize the data and create insights for our clients and for our internal team's record-keeping purposes. So the first of those is Datorama. So Datorama is currently considered the best-in-class data automation and visualization platform for paid media performance. So what it does is it allows us to create live data dashboards that are available to be refreshed and visualized daily. PowerPoint helps us deliver templatized and clear, shareable performance reporting. So we may go with PowerPoint for something like a monthly performance report that our clients can easily view and share amongst their teams. Brandwatch and Neustar, also listed here, are examples of vendors for social listening and multi-touch attribution. So these are kind of more advanced measurement strategies to help us see things such as, what people are saying on social platforms about our brands, as well as where exactly in the user journey people are committing actions for our clients. And finally, also attribution allows us to see how much revenue can be directly attributed to the media, kind of incorporating any environmental factors, such as the pandemic, for example. So again, these are examples of some more advanced measurement tools that can be at our disposal if and when we find that our clients find them valuable and we then invest in them for our performance reporting. We also have listed here Google Data Studio. So this is an example of a site traffic data and automation visualization tool, which would allow us to visualize some of the data in Google Analytics rather quickly and in a semi-automated fashion for site traffic performance. Next slide, please. So here we have some examples of Datorama visualization. So here we see how a dashboard might look like, for example, which of course client names blocked for confidentiality, as well as costs. But we see here that we have various features that Datorama helps us with. So Datorama helps us pull the data that we need and aggregate it. So here on the top left, we see a time comparison feature. So for example, we may be able to compare a full dashboard's performance for this month to the previous month. Here on the top right, we see volumetric roll-up and aggregated ratio calculation. So for example, if we have various paid media platforms represented in this one dashboard, this paid media impressions would roll up the total sum for whatever time frame the dashboard is filtered for. And then we'd have an aggregated ratio of the click-through rate, which is the clicks over the impressions. Here on the bottom, we have more examples of what visualization might look like. So for example, we have visualization of daily delivery here with the bars. So it's just an example of how Datorama ingests data and just shows it to us in a very clean manner. Here on the bottom, we have a visualization of data granularity. So here we have display creative names listed out in terms of impressions, clicks, and click-through rate. So this shows us, how granular and how, how deep down we can get in terms of looking at a data either overall for a full campaign or even as deep down as creative level.
Those visualizations really help a lot, don't they? Especially if they're customized to your institution's unique goals. Thanks, Beatrice. Now let's take a look at question number 3. Jim mentioned the increasing importance of lead gen for our higher ed friends here. Bobby, can you share some of the ways that we can bring fresh, actively searching prospects to our marketing databases?
Yes. Can we go to the next slide, please? Great. So lead generation is basically just turning, of course, our cold traffic into warm or hot traffic by driving our prospective students to take some sort of action on the website. So whatever that may be, it could be requests for information, inputting an email address or contact info, or landing on a certain web page even. So to take a step back, a lot of times when advertisers and brands think lead generation, we think very, very direct response. So really just mining those emails and names as much as possible. But it's so important to really have a full funnel approach to generate awareness and consideration in the upper funnel to turn that cold traffic into hot traffic through high impact video, banner ads, native ads with text and image, and then really leaning into our tried and true direct response lead gen tactics like paid social and paid search. And with direct response tactics being such a key part of really cleaning up the lowest hanging fruit, I did want to share a cool new product on Google called Lead Form Extensions, which is currently in beta. So that means that it's only whitelisted on certain accounts, but will eventually roll out to all accounts likely this year. So the key takeaway here is just making sure, we lean in on that full funnel approach, and then also focusing on those lower funnel tactics. So in this slide, lead form extensions. So this is super exciting. And this is something that I've rolled out on some of my accounts where it's been whitelisted on, and Google just totally randomly chooses accounts based on activity and spend levels. So lead form extensions are, they're an extension of your Google search ad, and they are going to allow users to directly input their information, whether that's name, email address, or program or course of interest, into the paid search ad itself. So you'll see all the way in the far left, you'll see that the base ad, and then you can see learn more, enter your information here. And that can be, of course, tailored to your university or program that's specific. So users will be able to enter that information or answer that question directly into the ad, which of course is going to just drastically decrease that path to conversion. So a user isn't going to have to click on an ad, get to your website, find your form, and then answer their information. They're going to search for a keyword, see your ad, and say, hey, I'm interested in learning more. Here's my information. Let's continue to speak. So once these leads are garnered, we can then download that email list and leverage it as CRM, which I've mentioned so much today, and how important CRM is going to be with the new iOS update. So we can leverage that CRM in our paid campaigns, lookalike model off of it even, and continue the conversation with users there. So it's super important to continue that full funnel approach for lead gen, and then also lean in on some cool new products that can really help us in the lower funnel with direct response.
Thank you. We have some questions that may have been submitted. Janet?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Bobby, Beatrice, and Angela, and Jim, for a very informative program. Let me see. We do have some questions that have been asked. Here, bring over the box right here. The first question is, I'm hearing a lot about ad fraud. How bad is it? What can be done?
I can go ahead and answer that.
Thank you, Bobby.
So ad fraud has been, oh God, it's been such a hot topic over the past few years in the digital space. And there's a couple key things that people refer to when we're talking about ad fraud. So there's bot traffic, which is basically robots viewing your ad and taking that impression from you, or a robot filling out that RFI submit, or robots coming to your site and really driving a huge unbelievable spike in your traffic, which you'll see in your Google Analytics account. And then there's also, on the other end, viewability and in-view metrics, which tells you if your ad is even being seen. Did it load on the page, and did the user scroll down to see the ad? So basically, with any digital media campaign, your ads will never be 100% in view. This is the same as if you have a TV spot and that runs and no one is in the living room to see that spot. So you're still paying for it. But average viewability for display and native is about 50 to 60% viewability. So, but it's really important to keep in mind how cheap impressions are with display and native. So you could be paying as little as $3 to $5 CPM. So $3 to $5 to serve 1,000 impressions. And if your ad isn't in view for 40% of those, it might be okay if you're still achieving that KPI, which might be website traffic or RFI submits. Assuming that those aren't driven by any bot traffic, which is something that we can verify through third-party verification tools. So the important thing here is to just be aware of what's going on with your digital media campaign. And as I just mentioned, leaning in on any third-party verification tool that you can leverage, like Moat or DoubleVerify. Those are two really big players in the brand safety space right now, which are going to show in-view metrics and ad fraud. And you can really lean in on your ad agency to handle this, or whoever is that digital expert in-house for you. And the other thing I would note is you're going to see much fewer ad fraud issues and viewability issues on platforms like Facebook, Instagram, Google Search, YouTube. So ads are almost always in view on these platforms. And these platforms are also so proactive about ad fraud. So every month in my accounts, I see credits for X amount of dollars every month for ad fraud that was detected. And then we can use that budget to reach other qualified users.
That's good to know.
So a lot of things to think about, and just the most important thing is lean in on whoever is your in-house digital expert or agency of record to work with you on this, and just knowing about it through those third-party verification tools.
Thanks, Bobby. I know that that's a critical issue for our clients that we're aware of, so thank you. There is another question. There's a few more questions we have time for. The second question is for Beatrice. It has to do with dashboards. It says, I have a lot of campaigns, not just paid media. Is there a dashboard where I can see all campaigns?
Sure. So yes, so happy to speak to that. So in terms of looking at media that's not paid media, or just in general, anything that involves, our strategy for a particular client, we love to incorporate that in whatever it is that we're using for our reporting tool. So whether that's our PowerPoint presentation, which has some extra context, or whether it's including it in our Datorama dashboard within notes, or within extra visualizations. So there are ways to make sure that we are integrating anything that's not paid media into those strategic reporting presentations, and just caveating them accordingly. So for example, for one of our clients recently, we had, open houses, for example, that weren't necessarily considered part of the paid media, or just something like that. That's just an example. We always, even if we can't measure, I guess, performance for something like that, we want to include the context in our presentations, regardless of a reporting tool.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
And I want to let everybody know that before we get on to the next questions, I almost forgot to mention that we are, as you can tell, this is a lot of information. There's a lot to keep up with. So we are offering or planning to present a part 2 to this webinar later in May 21st. So everyone keep an eye out for an invitation. As an attendee today, you will automatically get an invitation. And I have another question here. And by the way, any questions that we don't have time for today, I promise I will be in touch with you either later today or first thing on Monday with the answer. And again, we invite other questions through email as well. This question, I think this will be for Bobby. How do we know how do we know that we're spending enough and in the right media?
Okay. So I get this question all the time as a media planner, when we're starting a campaign, when we're in the middle of a campaign, when we're looking at performance. So the first thing that I would mention is I would look at, are you reaching your goals and are you getting the results that you want with your media? So are you seeing that increase in site traffic that you were looking for? Have you seen a lift in your RFI submits or applications? What can we attribute to the success of the media that you're running? And if you're not meeting those goals, it may be important to revisit and rethink that budget. So the best way to really determine budget, as a media planner is to, of course, know your clients' needs and have those conversations with what's most important and what their goals are. But it's, getting down to the tools that you can have in your back pocket here. It's really important to lean in on platform specific forecasting tools. So Facebook and Instagram has a great forecasting tool, Google and YouTube as well. Google has a keyword planner and YouTube has a reach planner, which is in beta, and it's going to be rolled out to all ad accounts, hopefully this year. And so, yeah, these platforms, they all have really great ways to determine the budget best suited for your campaigns. And it's really important to lean in on your knowledge as well of your brand, because no one knows it better than you. And you do have to take what these platforms say with a grain of salt, because they do want you to spend money on their platforms. So it's really kind of synergizing and looking at what your brand needs with what these platforms are recommending. But I would say a good rule of thumb, especially in paid social, is to aim to reach about 40 to 50% of your addressable audience. And then in Google search, I look at Google Trends a lot. That's a website that shows you how traffic is going with the keywords that you're interested in bidding on. And then, as I mentioned before, also Keyword Planner. And then as I mentioned, YouTube's Reach Planner, that's currently in beta. Hopefully that's going to get rolled out soon. And then it will be really easy to plan spend in YouTube. So I would say really lean in on these tools and consult with your digital experts on your team or your agency of record.
Well, I hope they consult with us because we'd be happy to help them. And we welcome all of your questions, including the questions we didn't have time to answer today. I will get back with you. And please, next slide. We will also be sending a recording of the program to everyone today. Again, thank you so much. Happy Friday. If you're around Pennsylvania, hold on to your hat. It's pretty windy out there. And to all of you who are May 1st schools, all the best this weekend. I'm sure everything will work out. And thank you again. Have a great weekend. And thanks to the panel.